Alright, so in the last video we did some really basic texturing. We haven't really done anything all that fancy. I want to do two things and then we're going to go back into Photoshop. So what I want to do is basically bake the ambient occlusion into this, okay? So ambient occlusion seems kind of confusing, but basically there's actually a button that you can preview ambient occlusion. So you might have noticed you can hit shadows when you have lighting and it will show shadows, although I don't have any lights in here, so it's not going to show anything. There's that button, right? But there's another one here. This one's called ambient occlusion. Basically what ambient occlusion does is that where objects are touching or where there's crevices and interior areas, it will darken those areas, okay? And you'll see we're going to do an ambient occlusion pass and you'll get an idea of what that looks like. But basically if I took this room and I just had an ambient light, just one light lighting everything 100%, and then I took a picture, and there was no color or anything, just everything was gray, you would still be able to see corners and crevices and things like that. Because what happens is the light goes into, let's say, the shelf, it bounces around, it gets trapped, and it's not able to come back out. It loses strength as it comes out. So ambient occlusion is a nice way of kind of adding that to your models to kind of give it a little more oomph, a little more bounce. It's kind of like patina, which is basically when you have like a relief and you put like a dirty grit dark color into it you wipe it down and then you wipe off that grit and it will remove it from everything on the surface, but all the cracks and stuff will have that still in there, and it creates texture and you can see the forms and things better. But it's actually a natural occurring thing because things that are more protruding will get more light and will be more worn, they'll usually be brighter, and things in cracks and crevices will usually be darker. So we're going to do that, and then we're also just going to superficially add a light to kind of help us also with texturing. We're going to throw that in there, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do one other thing inside of Photoshop. So to do that, we're going to do two things. Well, we're going to do one thing to start with. So I got to grab my chair, okay, make sure you have just the chair, all right, and I'll hit Shift-I. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do Mesh Combine. So I'll just click on this, or you go Mesh Combine. It's just easier to try and do it as one piece, okay? So select that. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to Control D, W. I'm going to move it over, and we're basically going to leverage Arnold to make it ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion, when you do it during render time, so you can render every single frame as an ambient occlusion pass, and it will work, but when you go to render that, it's really slow. It's just, it takes a lot of space. And it's definitely not like as possible in video games. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off so you don't see it on there. So you see how that just, I mean, I know it looks superficial, but see how it adds a little bit? That's basically what we're after, okay? So I'm going to take this, and we're just going to assign a new material to it, and it's an Arnold shader, and look, ambient occlusion, boop, that simple. Okay, now we're going to do, that will add it, and if we were to render this with lights and stuff, you would see it, but what we're going to do now is we're actually going to bake that out. So make sure, oh, is Arnold on here? Oh, sweet, okay, I can stay in here. Go to Utilities, and we want to bake, we want to render selection to a texture. So we're basically going to take what we have there, and I'm going to make, navigate to where you want this to go. So I'm just going to go to Desktop, and I'm just going to go ahead and go to, where are you? It was, where is it? It should be Living Room, right? Isn't that what I named it? There's Still Life. H-I-J-K. I might have called it Family Room. Why can I not see it all of a sudden? Oh, Living Room. Duh, it's the top one. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that into Source Images and select that as my folder that it's going to save it to. Resolution, go ahead and do 4096, so it's the same as what we're working with. You're going to want to up the samples. The samples, basically, the higher that is, the longer it's going to take to render. But if you don't put it in there, you're going to get lots of little dots. It's going to be fuzzy. So we just want to fix that. So let's go ahead and make that 6. Just be aware that samples are kind of like exponential. So as you raise those, it really increases the time. And I think the rest of it, he mapped one of the, well, doesn't matter. The rest of it we're going to call good. And then I'm going to hit render. And this might take a while. This used to be one of those things that used to be like super duper slow. But I think it's a bit faster now than it used to be, so I'm going to see if I might pause the video if it's going to take forever. because I did a quick one of these, but I had a lower resolution and I didn't have as high samples. So I'm going to pause it and then I'll start it back up once it's done. Whenever you do something like this that you know it's going to be like computationally expensive, or the computer has to think, it's a good idea to save it. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to pause it. Alright, so that took like an hour. It might take longer than that, actually, believe it or not. So between the samples and having it 4096, it may take a really long time. So just be aware, I don't know, watch a show or something. I went grocery shopping. When I came back, it was still going. So anyway, what it's going to do is it's going to create an XR, I think it's called. Let me see. .xr. Basically, it's a super high-res, high bit depth image. I think it'd be the highest you can kind of get. It's a 32-bit color depth. So to put that in perspective, like normally most of you're working on, probably everything you're working on is probably 8-bit. So it's super ultra. But just to kind of show you something too, you can see there are still, even with all that sampling, wherever there's going to be dark areas, you're going to get still some of that, dots that I was talking about. Okay, so we're going to call that image good. I'm going to come back to this. You can go ahead and open up in Photoshop, and we're going to come back to it. But I'm going to do one other thing inside of here, and that is this. So let's go to Create, Lights, and let's do an area light. And I'm going to U and V and then a mouse button, and pull this up, and R. Alright, and go like this. And I'm going to put lighting, this, and ambient occlusion all on. Alright. And we're going to go kind of like, maybe if I rotate this, let's see. Which I like that. Okay. So with the light selected, we can do the let's take the, let's see, 6. 6 might be a little bit better. So I'm going to go with something like that, and then I'm going to Control D, W, pull this guy down here, and let's do 25. Just trying to fill in some of the areas here, and then Control D, W, put this guy on the back end here. Like that. Good. And Control D, W. Put him over here. And we're going to go like that, we'll say. And Control, let's go more straight. Okay, Control D, W. And put this guy on the other side. And rotate this around. Like that. Okay. This is in the way, but we'll move it in a second. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to burn this in there as well. Let's see something real quick. I'm just going to show you kind of another way of doing sort of what we're already doing. Okay. Thinking maybe I'm going to weaken these a little bit. Not this one, though. I don't know if it'll let me do all of them. 0.1. Nope. Okay, we'll just do one at a time. 0.1 and 0.1. Do this one, and this will also be 0.1. Okay. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay. So now what we're going to do is something kind of similar to what we did before, where we're going to bake another thing. So now what you do is we're going to go to rendering. We still need the couches. We're going to delete this one in a second. And we're going to go lighting, shading. And you're going to go to transfer maps. And so basically what this does in essence is it's meant to take textures or something from one map, one object, and project it onto another one. What we're going to do is we're actually going to project the shading of this onto this guy here. And the other thing I'm going to do with this is actually, let's go ahead, I'm going to assign existing material. I'm going to assign it that Lambert, because I don't want the color in there. Otherwise, it'll transfer that color too. I want just the gray. Okay, so we have to have a target mesh, which is the mesh it's going to go to. I'm going to select this one and add selected. Okay, and then we need to have a source mesh. So where it's going to transfer from, and that's going to be this one. Add selected. That's going to want the kind, what we're going to transfer. So this is a way of transferring, let's say, normal maps. If you sculpt something like high res and you want to apply it to something like a low res version of it, you can transfer this way. We're just going to go ahead and do shaded. All right. And then include shadows. Yeah, that's fine. And then it's going to want where we're going to put it. So I'm just going to hit the folder, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into source images, and we're going to make this a JPEG. And open. That's not what I wanted. I think I do it this way. Source images, open. Oh, I guess I want to, and we'll just say chair light. Okay. And we'll use the JPEG, lit and shaded. Oh, we can remove that one. Okay, so it should just have the one. If there's multiple ones, just remove the other one. We don't really care about that. Maya common. So go to the Maya common attributes, and I'm going to do 496 by 496 because I want the same as my texture, just to make things a little bit easier. Filter size currently is 3. Let's go ahead and make that 4 just to make it a touch better. Gaussian's fine. Oops. So I made one mistake, so I'm just pausing it and transfer maps, blah 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 blah. So this should all be the same. Yep. So that's good. Nothing really needs to change there. That's also fine. Maya common. Good. So right now it's transferring using Workspace. I forgot to change this. This I want to keep, but the problem is if it does it to Workspace, see where this is compared to this? It's not going to be able to transfer it, so you got to make sure that that one that we did, I want to put 0, so it's right on top of the other one. Now we can go ahead and bake and close. And I'm just going to pause it. It should go really quick, but I'll pause it, and then it's done. I'll show you the result in comparison. All right, so now that has the bit there. So, oh, this is the duplicate. So, so we're going to delete this one. I'm going to put this guy back. So just go ahead and delete the one because you don't need it anymore. And put this one back. And I can also delete all these lights. They were just there for fun's sake. Okay. Oh, we can turn lighting off. Oops. Boop. Okay. And let's just make sure, assign existing material. Make sure it's still got the chair material. Okay. So now it's got the chair material. And now we have both of those things. So I have this one. I'm going to go ahead and open up the other one. Open. And chair light. Here we go. Okay. And here's the other one that we made from those lights. So you see basically what it did is it baked those into the lights. And then I'm going to open also the master file, the chair master. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these and put them in there. So I'll take the ambient occlusion first. So I'm just going to Control A, Control C, Control V, and that looks like that's the wrong one. Let me see if I can find the right one. Okay, that was the wrong one. So actually, this is a good example though. If you look, come on, Control plus 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 plus. See how the dots aren't as bad on this one? So this is the correct one. This was the old one that I did the test that was crappy looking. This one's considerably better. So we're going to Control A, Control C to copy that. I'm going to go to the chair master and get rid of this, and we'll Control V. So now that's in there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take this. It's going to make it a multiplier. So it adds the not darken, multiply. So it adds the black and the white gets treated as clear. I'm just going to take the opacity down a whole bunch because that's a little too much. Good. Let's go like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So Control A, Control C. And we're going to Control V. And this one, I'm going to do lighten. Or let me see, screen. Sorry, screen. And I'm going to put this one's opacity down a whole bunch. Like so. And then what we'll do is save this. Let's just save it first, and Control Shift S. Save as because Control Shift S, and let's just save it over the color, just so you can kind of get an idea. Sorry, what do we were doing JPEG, right? JPEG, and let's say over color, save. Yep, and let's go back over. Go. Okay, thank you. Okay, and let's go over here. and we will go to, I'm going to do edit, delete all by type history, and then we're going to go to the attribute just so it doesn't have all the things in there, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit reload on this texture. It'll give it a second, boom, okay. And now you're going to see that it now has, doesn't look any different. Did I save? Hang on a second, maybe I didn't save this right. Let's try that again. Okay. Share color. Living room. Yeah, that's right. Alright. Share color. Reload? Let me see. Oh, maybe it is in there. It's just very, it's just a little lighter than I kind of anticipated. Yeah, let's make it a little bit stronger. So we'll take this, and I'm going to go ahead and make it considerably darker. And then this, just bring up a little bit, like that. And then we'll just save it. Wait for it to save. And we'll also save out the color again. Okay. Click on that. Boom. And reload. Okay. So what that's going to do is it's going to darken some of the shadow areas, so it's got more oomph than it did before. So to kind of give you an idea, if I were to separate this, let's do modeling, mesh, separate, right, back into its normal parts. You can see that there's that looks a little bit darker. So let's move this out of the way. So you see the shadows kind of baked into it, and it's kind of worn into it. Okay. And also, because we did the light kind of coming down on it, we added a bit of white there and stuff. So now it's going to give it a little bit more of a worn look on the top. So it looks like this is all a little bit more worn, and some of the crevices and stuff are a little bit darker. Okay. So let's go back to just binding this all together. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this into Photoshop and actually try to paint it a little bit there, because if you look at it, although we added that stuff which adds nice little like pre-shading to it, basically, it would be nice to be able to, you know, have spots and things like that. So I'm just going to and export it. So we want to export selection, and we are going to, let's turn groups off, point groups off, materials off. Let's leave smoothing and normals on, and I'm just going to call it to Photoshop.obj. Okay, export selection. Replace that. If you don't see exporting OBJ as an option, go to the Windows Settings Preferences Plugin Manager, and then you'll see if you scroll down to see OBJ export, that will allow you to export it. Okay. Then inside of Photoshop, we're going to go ahead and open. And we are going to open in the scenes file right here. This Photoshop. And we'll hit open. And we'll hit, yep, let's go ahead and switch to the 3D workspace. Alright, and now we have our model. But you'll see it doesn't have any texturing or anything. So what we can do, we're in the 3D workspace. Let's go back here. I could select the material here. So this 3D shows basically my scene. It's kind of like the outliner inside of Maya, and these are the layers inside of that object. So this is kind of a per object. Oops, I don't know what I did there. I mean, it doesn't matter. Switch the material. That's it. Okay. Yeah, so it seems to, let's just find the regular old gray material that we want. Is this regular gray? Yeah, that'll work. Okay. I think I switched the material somehow, but anyway, so what I want to do basically is switch out the texture from my actual texture, right? So if you just go up here to where the base color is, make sure you just select it here, base color. we can click on this and we can edit texture, edit UV properties, or we can replace the texture. So click on replace texture, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my color texture. Boom, and there it is. So that's the same texture that we painted earlier, which is cool. And yeah, so now we can basically start painting on this as we would like. Okay. Now, if you want to, at any moment, well, we'll do this. So now what I'm going to do basically is just paint on here. So with the select tool here, that's how you rotate around the screen. But you can move down here, and you can zoom in and out here. You can move the light around if you feel like you need to do that as well. And if for some reason, I don't know why you'd want to rotate the object or move it around, you select it here, and then you can, you know, scale it and rotate it and all that other business. Okay, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm just worried about painting the texture. So we're already in the 3D workspace, so basically I can just take these various things, and I'm just going to go ahead and you know, start painting things. So select paint areas, projection, paint on base color. Let's see, height, opacity, just do base color. Okay, and I can paint on this. So actually, let's go back. I'm going to hit V for this, and I'm just going to show you. I just want to, okay, basically just want to add just a little bit of wear and tear, more or less, and like dirt and stuff. So I'm going to go back to my brush, and we're going to go up here, and here we go. And let's see. Now the nice thing is you have all of your brushes that are inside of here. So Kyle's Splattered Brushes. Let's do some splattering, huh? And I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to choose kind of like a dingy brown. I'm just going to say this thing's got stains on it, which isn't too far from the truth. So let's see. That's a bit too many stains. I have standards. That looks like I had an accident, so that's a little much. Okay, I must have made it a little bit bigger than I intended. So we're going to do that, and then let's take the opacity down, and let's take the flow down. And let's not do that one. I don't know if I like Kyle's Concept Brushes. Scratch. Foliage. Okay. So let's see what that does. Is this a little bit better? Let's see. Now it is going to be a little bit slow, obviously, because it's we're inside of Photoshop, and Photoshop isn't necessarily the greatest for this sort of thing. It is slow. So let's see. V. There we go. And let's zoom in. So you can see I added a little bit to it. Alright. Let's go ahead and go back to this, and let's take opacity up a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of So here's a nice little trick that you can do. I don't know if you know this already, but you can fade any previous action. So see how like this is a little bit too strong? Instead of undoing and changing all the stuff, I could actually do this. If you go to Edit, you'll see Fade, which apparently must be off inside the 3D mode. That's really lame. Okay, never mind. Apparently it won't let me do that. So I will have to do this. So we'll just lower this a little bit. So I'm just going to do little strokes here and there. Like that. And V. And let's move this up. And back to B. And I'm just trying to make this a little bit dingier, more or less. And what's also neat, so you'd want to paint basically kind of like I'm doing here. let's do V. Let's move this back and move this over. What's also neat is that while you're in here, you can actually, if you select the material, you can click on this, and you see where it says Edit Texture. It'll actually open it up in a new tab. And then inside of here, you can actually, make sure we're on layers here, you can actually go ahead and paint stuff in here as well. So, like, you might find it a little bit easier to do that inside of here. So, for instance, let me see. This must be the back. Yeah, this is the back of the chair. So I could do is paint this like garbagey stuff here. And then also what I could do, so I would do something like that, and then all you do is just save this, Control S, right, to save it, close it out, and when you go back here, it will show up. So I think I was doing the back. So you can see, there it is right there, which works pretty nice. Okay, but what I would suggest doing at this point is add like dinge and things like that. I also like to just push that pre-shading stuff a little bit more, so I would grab this, go to like just a normal soft round brush, and then let's see, do they have pencil brush? And then it's X, and then you can just add like a little bit of light here on some of these areas. Come on. It's a little slow. It might run a little bit better on your computer just because mine is just, this computer's old, unfortunately, and it's seen better days. So I'll just put a little bit of black there, and then I can kind of darken up, you know, in this area, like where you've been sitting too much. Alright, so you can kind of see. Let's undo that, make this a little bit bigger so it's a little more even. Alright, let's go V, and back to brush, and maybe put a little under here. V, and then let's do a little bit of B here, and then just V, oh sorry, V to rotate, and then B to brush. And then we're going to hit B and X to switch to white, and make this a little bit smaller. I just really want to try and push these edges to be lighter, like they're getting worn out. And then V, and then B for the brush, and let's just make sure that we're adding that. V. Come on. Good. Rotate. Ah, accidentally grabbed the object. Let's see. 3D. Oh. There we go. I don't know what I keep hitting there that's making that happen. Back to current view. Okay. And then B. I'm just going to try and really try to make this, give this the appearance of, so I'm obviously making this look a little bit more dingy maybe than it actually would, but the best thing to do is actually look at reference and kind of go from there. Okay. So, imagine I did a good job. I know it's hard, but see if you can picture that in your mind's eye. And then we just need to basically export it. So, let's go to layers, and let's just, oh, that's what I've been clicking on, was the textures. properties. Oh, never mind. Sorry, this thing. And then we can just going to want to export it, so go 3D and then just export 3D layer, and it's going to want the 3D file format. Obviously I don't care, let's just do an OBJ so it's the same, and then texture format says original formats, but let's just go ahead and just do JPEG, and hit OK, and then we'll just say, I like to call this to Maya, and we'll hit save. Okay, and we'll go back to Maya. And then what I'm going to do is on this, click on here, and actually, rather than doing it that way, let's go here, because it's going to export. See, it exported all the images there, and rather than doing that, I'd rather take this and put this in the right one. So I'm just going to copy the color from it here. Is that the same? Is it the same, right? Yeah. So I'm going to select this one. I'm just going to Control X and put that actually in the source images, so it's in the right spot. Control V. And we will replace the file in the destination. Okay. And then we'll just hit reload. And reload. Double check. Oops. Share color. Make sure that that's the dingy one. Cancel. That was actually not it. So it was the other one when I looked at it closer. So I'm going to grab this JPEG. And put that into the source images. Control V. Did it go in there? I don't see it. Okay, let's try that again. So scenes, grab this one, Control X. That one's the actual export, and put that into my source images. There it is. Okay. So now I'll go into Maya and this time choose that second one. This one. Come on, there you go. This guy. And hit open, give it a second, and boom. And now you can see we have a much more worn out looking kind of gross chair. That is a sexy, sexy chair, if I do say so myself. It looks terrible. But, you know, it is what it is. And we could even do just a quick Arnold Light on this. So let's say we just do, let's do an area light. W and V, just so we get an idea of what it looks like. And Arnold, open up. And let's hit the play button. I wonder if it's going to try and do the whole scene. Oh, we got to take the what is it? The exposure up. Exposure is never high enough in Arnold. Let's try that. There we go. And zoom in a little here so we can actually see it. And voila, our chair is super shiny too. I don't know what happened there. Select this real quick. Oh, it's the reflectivity. Let's take the reflectivity off. That shouldn't be there. There we go. So yeah. Now you might notice that sometimes things are a little bit too shiny. You can actually adjust that to some extent. So like, so you know how I have the specular color attached? If I click on that, you'll see that it's like, oh, it's got a thing to it, right? So if my file, for one, you could just change the actual file. So I could change it so that the specular color is a little bit darker. But you can actually also go to color balance, and you can lower the exposure, and that will actually superficially make it brighter or darker, which will default. It's not really doing much now, but will default adjust that. So anyway, there you go. So what I would like you to do for the next assignment is just choose like a piece of furniture or something like that. I want you to UV it. You can just use this one if you want, and then I want you to texture it using, trying to bake those textures like I was showing, as well as painting it inside of Photoshop. Okay, I don't really care if you use the 3D painting inside of Photoshop because it is a little bit rough to work with. So if that doesn't work so well, that's fine. But you know, you should use the typical like texturing techniques. See what you can get with it. I just don't want to. I mean, personally, I would be spending like a crap more ton time on this in order to make it look good. I don't want to make like a million-hour movie. So when you see me like just quickly like, oh, that's good enough, and go to the next thing, that doesn't mean you should just stop there. You should like pause it and make it look good, and then go to the next part, because obviously this doesn't look the greatest. But yeah, so that's basically it. So get a piece of furniture, want you to UV it, or use one of these. You can use this one. UV it and texture it. And then I just want the Maya file. You don't have to render it or anything. I was just doing this so we could see what it looked like when it was actually textured, or actually lit. So I actually just want the Maya file. If you want to send me just the object itself, that would be fine too. So just select this and then delete everything else, or that'd be even better. All right, that's it. So good luck.